Welcome to the Refractor Rants podcast, a podcast about all things sports cards. I'm one of your hosts, Tommy, aka TV Sports Cards, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host Max, aka Grading Master Max. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Grading master is definitely a little bit aggressive nomenclature to and a title to give me, but I will accept it for now. How are we doing tonight? I'm doing great.
I'm doing great. Max, in my eyes, you're a Black Label 10 BGS in the grading world. That's what you are to me.
Oh, hush. Oh, you.
Well, we're starting off with grading talk, Max, because obviously there is some minor news, only minor news in the hobby this week, where SGC was acquired by Collectors, which is the parent company of PSA. Max, have you did you read into this at all?
I know the surface level facts, but I don't know the deep Earth's core knowledge bombs.
Definitely, I don't know the deep Earth core knowledge bombs either, but it does seem like SGC will continue to operate as its own company. I heard rumors on Darren Rovell's Twitter about them being able to cross over SGC grades to get the same exact PSA grade. That's to be confirmed. I don't think it has been 100% confirmed, but it does seem like they will continue to operate as separate companies. Max, you didn't go to a card show this weekend, right?
I did not. I tried attending the Huntsville card show, but I had some really bad traffic.
Oh, damn.
Like
Wait,
2-hour delay for a 1-hour trip type traffic.
so you just said I'm not gonna go?
No, I was driving on the highway and I believe it was about 6:22. It's about an hour long drive. I was about 40 minutes on my drive. I had about 20 minutes left until the airport. And I go through this toll road and I drive on this bridge. And obviously bridges are narrow. I didn't see it myself, but I can infer by the EMTs and fire trucks that shortly came after that there was a car accident on this bridge, and it was no exaggeration. Again, yeah, very upsetting to those involved in the crash. Of course, have to give that disclaimer so that someone doesn't paint me as unapathetic. But with my frustration there, it was 2 hours of 0 mile per hour movement on this bridge. So that quickly made my travels from it being my flight was boarding at 7:30, and I was on this bridge starting at about 6:15, 6:20, 6:22, whatever, something like that. And my car got off the bridge at 8:25 a.m. So by the time I got off the bridge, my flight was already half an hour departed.
Wow, that sucks. I don't know how else to put that.
Yeah, there's a balance of things you can control and things you can't control. So I was just like, yeah, I can't control this. You can't get mad. Even if I had left, if I didn't get gas that morning, then I probably would have made it because like I would have beaten the crash. And if I had left 5 minutes later, then I also probably would have missed it because my navigation would have told me to go reroute somewhere and I wouldn't have been in the traffic.
Well, what did you do? What did you do with your time that you had free this weekend then since you weren't at the show?
Drove home and bought cards.
So you spent the whole weekend online?
I buy cards a
Yeah,
lot.
what platforms were you on? I do want to talk about the PWCC auction, Max. There is one card in particular that we were messaging about, which is the 2005 Albert Pujols Gold Superfractor sale on Topps Chrome Albert Pujols. It sold on the PWC, or this was Golden Auctions
I
actually. It
was about
sold
to
on
correct you.
Golden.
Yeah, that was golden.
That was Golden. It sold for $14,000. This is a fourth year Albert Pujols card. But Max, I was doing some research beforehand. You said you were uncertain on why this one Superfractor sold for 14,000.
I am
2005 Topps
absolutely,
Chrome. Sorry.
yeah, I am absolutely clueless.
So Max, 2005 Topps Chrome, first year of Superfractors in Topps Chrome. So
Really?
yes, 2002 they had the black refractors out of 50. 2003 they had the uncirculated X fractors inserted into hobby boxes that were out of 50, I believe. Yeah, 50 and then 57 for series 2. And then '04 had the red X fractors. And I guess they had rookie red X fractor 101 autos. So that's according to Baseball Cardpedia that there is a Yadier Molina potential red X-Fractor rookie auto 1 of 1 out there somewhere. But in terms of the Superfractor and the Superfractor design that we all know and love, 2005 Topps Chrome Baseball, the first set, first baseball Superfractors in Topps Chrome. The Albert
Yeah.
Pujols sold for 14K. I feel like that makes sense.
Interestingly enough, as I scroll on Card Ladder, I see that today, last night was the 2005 Topps Chrome Superfractor sale at 17,000. Today, his 2013 Topps Chrome Superfractor was binned on eBay for $1,500. And
Well, obviously, yeah. I feel like Pujols is
also
like
back in June, his 2014 Topps Chrome Superfractor was binned for I think 1,500 and sorry, 1860 it was sold for at auction on Golden in January of 2023 for the 2014 card. But yeah, I guess the biggest difference is both of these are Angels Superfractors, but even getting an Angels Superfractor at 1/10 of the price, it at least suggests to me that the demand is more so for this being a first year Topps Chrome Superfractor. And I try to emphasize that whoever we talk to, our circles, even the Refractor Rants, excuse me, the young Refractor Rants audience, is we're just all a small microcosm of the hobby that all interacts and talks with each other. But there's always so much more that we don't see. And I personally have never heard anyone hype up 2005 Topps Chrome Superfractors before. Of course, if it being Albert Pujols is obviously a very big name, but the disconnect between the price between normal Angels, or rather, just Angels Topps Chrome Superfractors or Pujols to this 2005 Superfractor, it seems outlandish and inconceivable.
Well, I don't know, it makes sense to me. You know, you got, like, 2012 Prism, the gold sell for such a huge amount of money. But I do agree that it is wild that we both never knew that 2005 Superfractors were the first year. I guess it's probably because there's not, like, one rookie that would be, like, a super awesome one to have from 2005. I don't think there's a Hall of Fame rookie unless McCutcheon kind of sorta counts. I mean, it was that weird time. I will say, though, that the gold Superfractor that this one is being called, it pops a lot more than the current modern day Superfractors. I don't know, Max,
Mhm.
if you agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like a design difference in the gold Superfractor as opposed to regular Superfractors, but yeah, no, it's cool.
I did see, Max, that you were also selling some cards in the PWCC auction this week. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. I have, or at least the four cards that I featured when I was tweeting, is my Babe Ruth PSA 1 1948 Leaf, my Patrick Mahomes Black Pandora PSA 10. I have an SGC 1 Walter Johnson from T206, and a 1993 Topps Derek Jeter rookie card that is IP autoed. And I have a few other smaller cards as well, but those were probably the four most interesting cards that I had sent out. This is going to be a fun little bit. As of now, it is 9:06 p.m. on Sunday when we are recording this. PWCC extended bidding really formally begins at 10, but it doesn't really begin until 10:30. And so as it stands, my Babe Ruth is at it's a PSA 1 1948 Leaf. No, I try not to exaggerate. I try not to embellish, but the front is gorgeous. It has some snow. It's a very clean back. It has no tape. It has no paper loss. I don't think it has any creasing. And this card is presently at $3,720. You will know, or if you care enough to look it up, what the card actually ended at by the time this episode airs. But this card is at $3,720. About a year ago today, this exact card was listed on another more obscure into vintage auction site, and it ended at $3,620. And I bought it at the Culture Collision trade show. I got a very good deal on it from someone who outright said, "Hey, I won this auction at 36. I don't want this in my collection. What can I really do?" And I'm thinking like, man, okay, like I recognize this $3,600 sale exists, but on such an obscure site that no one is going to comp check it and see it. And B, more high wear versions of this card do about 1,800 to 2,000. And that's where, again, this is a set that has a lot of centering issues, and this is a better presenting centering card that has a lot of creasing, a lot of ugly stuff. And, obviously it's a one. these sales do about $1,800 to $2,200. That's what, the amount that I just quoted. And I bought it at about 2,400, which was given those sales, that's, and then with the intent of making money, those are very strong that's a very strong price to pay with the anticipation of, okay, I'm trying to try to sell it privately for 27. Maybe on my best day, I can try to sell it for 3,000, but I'm just going to try to move it for 27. I think I offered it for 2,700 to some people, but all I got was lamented on, oh, I'd do 2,000 because he's doing 800. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. I'm like, this is great eye appeal. I'm like, oh, even if it is great eye appeal, a card at this PSA 1, this is a very high PSA 1 sale. I can't be there. And I'm like, okay, well, I got a ride way on the highway, something like that. I'm going to have some fun. I'll throw it to the masses. Maybe it'll do well. Maybe it won't. Maybe the joke's on me and this buyer won't even pay. But as of now, with a little over an hour left officially, the card is at $3,720. I'm going to be netting a high percentage of that. And yeah, I'm into it for 2,400. So that's going to be a nice payday.
That's huge.
I know ball.
That's a big win for you right there. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Again, it's I'm not trying to jinx it, assuming the buyer pays, but vintage IPL pays well. Don't be stupid. Vintage is very hot. Don't be afraid to run things at auction. And cards. This card didn't even get like an eye appeal designation from PWCC either, which I thought I was a little robbed out of. It's cool.
I know you love the eye appeal. I know you love
I
the
do
eye
love the eye appeal stickers. I am, just to go on an aside, a card that I have that I've been debating back and forth whether I want to auction is my T206 Christy Mathewson. And everyone knows I'm a sucker for pre-war. This card just pops so well for one. Look at that Giants legend, Tommy.
Wait, what's the what do you got in the background of it?
It's the PWCC top 30% eye appeal sticker. Designation. I can just take it out of the thing.
Christy Mathewson though is the GOAT. Like Cy Young got the award, but I feel like Christy Mathewson low key was robbed.
Yeah, and I love this copy. I won it at auction a few months ago, and I loved it then. I love it now. I mentioned that I love this card, and even just as a lover of cardboard, this is one where it's like I don't know if I'm ever going to see a better one than this. Like, Tom, what do you think?
I mean, as someone who owns maybe like 3 pre-war cards, even I am like, yeah, that's a sick card. That I can see how that card could go for multiple thousands of dollars.
Well, that's the thing. I don't even think it would go for multiple thousands at auction. That's why it's like, okay, I kind of want to keep this.
Wait, what? What do you think the value is if you went?
I don't know. Your traditional, like I like kind of softly put it for sale at like 1,750, and most ones do 1,000. But I usually don't get like this. I mean, I was kind of thinking like that. Oh, maybe this Ruth PSA 1 is my forever copy, but I'm like, man, it's not a good enough one. Like it has the snow, it has no creasing. I feel like I'm with the Ruth, and the Ruth is a great copy. I felt like, okay, maybe I'm convincing myself that it's a better one than it actually is. Because I mean, part of collecting is that we're all trying to show how much cooler our cards are to us and also to other people to an extent. But I'm like, no, I don't really care. This Mathewson, for the price that I want for it, it probably isn't enough. And I like this card.
So you're gonna hold that one for a little bit.
I think I'm as of today and as of this week, I'm holding it.
All right, but I hear that the PWCC is probably going to be good for your Ruth. What about the other cards you're auctioning? How are those doing right now?
They're doing all right. Part of, again, because I feel like, okay, I'm going to be articulate in functioning and constructing this sentence, but I know with Modern, or at least anecdotally, my experience with Modern is that it will get run up a lot during the last hour or so. The Mahomes Black Pandora Downtown, I don't know what it's at right now, but it's at I think it's in the 3,000. No, sorry, it's in the low 2,000s for a PSA 10, and that's like 25-40% higher than what PSA 9s have done. So I'm anticipating that just gets run up in the last hour. And my what was the third card? My Derek Jeter is at 300, and I don't know, maybe that just wasn't a good card to auction. Again, at Culture Collision, I had a flipper free type of challenge where if I win, I mentioned in previous episodes, we did a coin flip. If I won it, I got the card for free. If I lost the coin flip, I would be paying $800. So I was valuing it. I wanted to pay at the time $400 to $420, give or take. So even though I'm into the card for $0, I'm mentally into the card for 400 because that's how expected value works, and I will not operate anything under anything else but expected value under a large sample size. So I'm not lying to myself. But it's only at about 350 right now. That's a little, but I don't know again if that's a product of modern cards just get run up at the end and the vintage people, they put their bids in earlier, or if it's just the card is going to sell poorly. The
I
last card, last thing, the Walter Johnson T206, very good front, atrocious back, SGC one. I'm into the card for I think for about 1,000, and right now I think it's at about 1,200 ish. So that's good, and I'm hoping it gets run up for even more. Obviously, hoping for the best. But like I'm content. That's not one where it's like, okay, if this ended at this price right now, I'm gonna be fuming.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to hear what they end up going for later, but
And
good
that's
luck.
the art of auctions.
I respect the move on the auction, Max. I love ripping auctions myself on eBay on random cards just to force the liquidation.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uh,
always have to keep things moving, and, if I held that even if I had any other route but auction would have resulted in me not maximizing my value on the Ruth, and I look at cards and transactions as you're either pushing for time or you're pushing for money, and if you're pushing for time, or if you're in a time crunch rather, then you're going to send it to auction, and
mhm.
you're gonna let the money suffer and the time not suffer. And if you're hunting for money, then you're gonna let the time suffer and potentially hold out for longer in exchange for maybe finding a better collector or a better price. But with that in mind, this is a rare situation in the case of the Ruth where I am seceding the time as well as getting a very strong price. Maybe if I threw it up on eBay at a high bin, I could have gotten even higher because an auction is only the second most someone is willing to pay for something. But I am satisfied. I love
Max,
getting into theory.
uh, as a as a layman who's never sold a card on PWCC, can you walk me really quick through the process of having a card in your hand to having it cash in your hand from selling it on a PWCC auction? How does
Um,
that process work?
It's pretty simple, and this is not sponsored or affiliated or anything like that. This is just being said on good faith. In this situation, I dropped off to a PWCC rep at the Burbank Card Show. They were set up. I gave them my cards. You can ship your cards to them too, and they brought it back to their vault. They took scans, and they listed them. They got them listed pretty quickly. If you don't go into your settings and say which specific weekly auction date you do, it'll, I think, default to like a month out or something like that, just so that like get less time for everything to process. But for specifically with my football and my vintage, I'm like, okay, I'll just take the money now. It's already March. I don't want to wait longer in the off season for football. And I just flashed them. So I want to say dropped them off in Burbank about 2 weeks ago, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, and they're ending at auction tonight. I maybe could have even gotten it a week earlier if I was more proactive in setting the auction date, but I'm not sure if I could have. But I mean, that's pretty quick turnaround time for a larger auction site, with weekly auctions, and then I can choose whether to submit it to auction or not submit it to auction. It's a little bit faster if you just default it to auction. And then once people pay for the auction, they do weekly payouts every Wednesday. So as long as you request your ACH or wire or check or whatever other payments they do, as long as you request it before Wednesday, it will all be processed on Wednesday.
Damn, so that's like within a month you're getting cash in hand from PWCC. That's pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
exactly. And
That's
part of
fast.
that month is it being at auction for 10 days and and in this case, them scanning the items driving the items from California to Oregon in an armored truck, and I'm doing the scanning and then doing all the IDing and that stuff. And the IDing takes a little bit longer on vintage just because they have the IPO designations that they can give to them. The moderns even a day or two quicker, but very hassleless free, and to get relatively strong premiums, and you don't have to wait a month like some other sites.
Yeah, that's pretty
Wait a month for their next auction to come up because the stuff is always weekly.
Do you only ever send stuff to them if you see them at a show though? Like you're not mailing stuff into them usually.
I wouldn't be opposed. Part of it is that I travel a good bit, and like in this case, it was a little bit on impulse because it's like, oh, they're right there. I can just drop stuff off, and also like shipping would probably be like again for that many cards. If I overnighted it, it'd be $30. It'd be $40. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just take advantage of not needing to ship.
Yeah, wait, does PWCC ever take money from you, like, directly, or is it all taken out of the sale? So, like, are you
It's
paying
all,
them upfront?
if I were to withdraw the item without auctioning it, I would be subject to a 3% fee within the first 90 days, or if I waited over 3 months, a 1% fee. And that's partly just for them to cover their vaulting costs. But since I'm doing it directly at auction, no, they only take the cut after the buyer's paid.
Wow. Well, that's pretty nice. Thanks for walking me through that as someone who's never sold any cards on PWCC. It doesn't sound as hard as I probably thought.
Yeah, unsponsored. And I mean, for me, the biggest thing is high res pictures, high res scans. Um, and they do that well. Everything's relatively organized. There's some like little quirks that like I wouldn't recommend. Like in my case, maybe this is hurting my Jeter, maybe it isn't. But the Jeter as like a PSA DNA card, it's at least labeled a 1993 tops. But I've had some issues specifically in vintage where the autograph was authenticated, but the card wasn't, and it made it like all the way in the back because they're just reading the PSA label and they're not gonna, even though the card is authentic, they're not gonna authenticate. Like I had a Hank Aaron signed, I think 1954 tops, and the card wasn't authenticated, just the autograph. So they put it like all the way in like a really far subsection, and it did like pretty mediocre at auction. And I'm like, oh, that's not fun. And I'm like, yeah, well, I kind of knew this was an issue going in. They're not perfect, and also, I'd be wary of anyone doing I think the raw card review that they do for, is required for all raw cards. I think it's very sophisticated, but at the same time, because it's so sophisticated, you have to be very vigilant in looking for issues. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, that's a good thing, I feel like, in
I
general, that
agree.
they
But it's so sophisticated to where you don't need to disclose anything, if that makes
Mm,
sense. And I
yeah.
and I kinda like that because disclosures are ultimately a little bit arbitrary. Like, they have it in bright lighting where if the card's creased, you're gonna be able to see the crease in the video, you know?
Yeah.
So that it
And
is, like, fair for everyone, but at the same time, excessive proactive disclaimers can hurt the buyer. It's like an eBay title that says "read" on it. It's the immediate reaction to just not look at it because the card's destroyed. But as long as you're doing it with a sober scope and looking appropriately at cards that are RCR'd, you may have some damaged ones, but just make sure to pay attention. Or you could have some that are just simply nines. It goes both ways.
that's good advice. That's good advice. Max, there is one other auction sale that we wanted to discuss tonight, that I remember. I don't know which auction site this was on,
I believe it
but
was golden.
it was on Golden. It was on Golden, of course, again. This was the 2018 Panini Black 101 SGA PSA 9. This sold for 196,000 dollars. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
crazy
you have
amount.
to do a double take.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not used to saying numbers that big about SGA cards. I mean, almost $200,000. That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, the Thunder are what? The 2 seed right now? I'm sorry, they are the 1 seed. Pardon me. No disrespect to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he is the best player on the team. He's an MVP candidate. Last year, it was a surprising team where it's like, oh wow, this team could make playoffs. I want to say, Tommy, correct me. They were like the ninth team. They were playing, and then they
Yeah, I think
lost.
they were in the plan last year. I think they
They were in the
lost.
play-in, and
They
then they
went
won their first game, then I think they lost, something like that. And now they've leaped right towards the number, the first, the best team in the Western Coast. And SGA is the best player. SGA is, you know, if they're not an MVP winner this year, probably won't win this year, but he's definitely going to be in the running. $200,000, essentially $200,000. That's a lot of money. Black Prizm one of ones are king. And part of why, I wanted to flag this sale for Tommy and say, look at this, is because it prompts the rookie card logo debate. Because as many ball knowers know, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's rookie card in 2018 Prism erroneously, arbitrarily, does not have a rookie card logo.
Yeah, that's a really insane fact. It also, I mean, not nearly as random or absurd. He is on a Clippers uniform because he did play his first year, maybe 2 years with the Clippers.
Traded for Paul
Another
George.
weird thing. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, yeah, he was traded for Paul George. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. But also, like, I feel like there's a history of guys and a track record of guys in the NBA who stay on the same team. Their cards are generally worth more because they're just like more associated with the jersey they're wearing. Obviously, whoever bought this is probably trying to do a quick flip. Doubt they're doing a long hold here as a maybe a Thunder fan. I don't know.
I
That
mean, they
seems a
very well.
little
I
absurd.
mean,
Could
it's
be.
not necessarily quick flip. It's it's a 5, 10 year down. Think 10. 5. I'm very inarticulate today. It is a thinking that is maybe 5 to 10 years down the road, and that this is quite arguably his best card. That isn't. Do they have National Treasures logo men for rookies or flawless? Like they might for flawless. I think they do for flawless. I mean, this is easily probably a top 3 card of his ever made. It's definitely his top non-auto card. I mean, it's probably worth the same as whatever National Treasures, the NT flawless. I know I said NT National Treasures twice, but the point still stands. This is arguably his best card ever.
Mhm.
And if you believe that, again, basketball is a relatively young sport, if you believe that he's eventually on the 100th anniversary team and he's on the top half of that 100th anniversary team, well, then 200K will look like a bargain, especially given inflation. So
Yeah.
we are in a card. I said some tweets saying that we're in a card we are in a bullish card market, and I followed that up with a tweet that's saying baseball hype is dead. And I know someone jokingly said, "Hey, you just said these two things," and I'm like, "I did, but they can both be true." But I think we're in a bullish market for cards right now. Stuff is flying. We're still at 2019-ish prices, which I think is healthy for the absolute higher end, but still higher than what we otherwise would be at. And I think it's a good time for speculators if you have 200K to spend. I don't. But if you are in the demographic and you want, like, think about it. Like, if you're really big, if you have a lot of money, 200K isn't anything to you, then sure, put 200K in thinking that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be an all-time great. You very well could win more than 200K. Your reward is always going to be best. I'll say this adage: whenever you want to invest in a player, buy the best card of him possible that you can.
Yeah. That is your advice. I feel like you've said that a few times on this podcast, especially when you're talking about your friends that like talk to you who are pretty ignorant.
I love everyone. Love speech.
Love speech only, love speech only. Um, well, Max, what do you think, knowing that the SGA sold for 200K, what do you think the Wembanyama true black 101 would go for right now if it was pulled?
I'm really thinking because I'm trying to think of any of his golds sold yet. Gold
Well,
Wem.
I did see a hilarious video on Instagram today of some, like, totally absurd, obscure grading company
I
graded one
saw
of
that
his
video.
black golds out of 5s for, like, a 9 in the grade for whatever company it was, and the video was ridiculous. It, like, went through a whole machine. Everyone was just trying to zoom in and show off flaws on the card, but gotta love that. Whoever pulled that, mad respect.
Yeah. I don't want to advertise about the grading company, but that video was pretty funny. Not saying that you were, but I'm saying I think whatever. I'll just leave it at that because they did a pretty laughable job. I see a gold shimmer sold on Leap Day for $26,500. So, like, jumping through hoops math, does that make a true gold worth 50 to $75,000? And then maybe like a PSA 10 of that worth like 100? No, that doesn't make sense. Well, yes, it makes sense math wise, but like in real world, does that make sense? 100K for a gold Wembanyama prism when Shy does 200.
Well, the Shy also is a
Outside of
PSA
205.
9. PSA
Yeah,
9.
but it's a black. Who cares?
I
Like,
don't
who
know.
cares about the grade? Like, as long as it's like nine or better, like a 10 would be cool. But they're spending $196,000 whether that's a 9 or a 10.
Wait, did the Bronny James LeBron 101 sell at auction yet?
I don't think so. I think it's staged for March or April. But
Hmm.
I'd say the Wembanyama does like 125K, 150K. That's my guess. That feels high. But then Shy is also someone who's, like, relatively accepted to be unheralded. But
I don't know, dude. I
I
think the
thought
Wembanyama goes for like
I'm gonna
half a
put
mil.
my official cards mac estimate at $135,000 for the Wembanyama 1-of-1 black, and maybe that's too low.
I take the over on that for sure.
Yeah, but, like, I'm just trying to do the math. Math is
I'm
just
just
trying to do
trying to
math.
do the math, man. I'm just trying to do the math.
Yeah.
All right, Max. I think it's time for the end of the episode, deals of the week. I'll go first here. I've made a few deals. I traded a 2011 Buster Posey blue opening day out of 2011, just a dupe. I traded that for a 2012 gold wave out of 50 Brandon Belt Tops Chrome card. That's pretty random, I guess. What did I buy on eBay? I bought a Chris Young 2008 Topps Chrome Red Refractor out of 25 Rookie Cup for $20 free shipping on eBay. That was pretty sick. '08 Red Refractors are pretty dope. Panini Instant had a sick card of Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu for pre-sale for Panini Instant for $7 free shipping on eBay. So I scooped one of those. That was a pretty sick moment, I feel like. So feel like this is going to be I mean, it'll probably be like a 2000 print run. I feel like people will see this one. I bought a 2003 Topps Black Rob Nen out of 52, first year flagship black for $5 plus $1 shipping. That's pretty low. That's the lowest I've gotten on one of these '03 black flagship cards. Um, Another black flagship I bought was a 2023 Reed Detmers black out of 72 rookie cup for 250 plus 150 shipping. That was a sick one. Let's see. That's kind of it. I think I had a couple. Oh, Max, I ripped a blaster of Panini Prism Monopoly today, and I pulled a base Wemby, even though the blaster was like I think $35.
I
This card,
wish,
yeah,
I was gonna say, I wish, Prism, Monopoly, the distribution of parallels is what we all want in collectibles, but it's gatewalled by everything being extremely expensive. So it's unfortunate that it's at least last year and probably this year as well, it was probably known as a bit of a fad, but and then will continue fadding. But I think it's a fun product and I respect people who enjoy it and it's a fun rip. It certainly looks like a fun rip.
yeah, I do agree. It's one of those things. I don't think there's hobby boxes of it. So like the blasters are theoretically, I think the biggest box you can get. So all the numbered hits, they're in blasters, which is not the case for most of these other products these days, right?
Mhm. Um, I don't have too many buys of the week or plays of the week or deals of the week rather.
Deals of
Uh,
the week.
I will touch on how I got a PSA bulk order that just came back, or rather, I think it's scheduled to come back Monday. I Hey, full disclosure, you have to share your losers in that I swung at a 38% gem rate, which is really bad for me. And most of these cards were submitted raw and not as cracks. I think I was looking in the order and I had like a stretch where it was just like 9 straight PSA 9s. And I'm just like, when am I going to get a 10? But yeah, 38%, not my best. I usually swing at about 60, and that's even with some cracks. But that's bulk out, one card in that sub, which is a little bit of a fun story in that I bought an Anthony Richardson Purple Ice off eBay for looks like $346 was what I purchased it for. And Purple Ice out of 299, Anthony Richardson, one of the better quarterbacks in this year's class, definitely a top 2 name. I've been buying a lot of Anthony Richardson. I had already packed and prepped this package to go to the post office. I had finished the PSA order. I finished the sheets. I entered every single card. I'm about to print the order and put it in my package. And then I get a doorbell ringing at my house, dogs barking. Of course, it's an order from eBay authentication from USPS delivered to me, and it's in my hand. And I'm like, oh, I really don't want to look at this card and prep this right now. But I'm literally finishing a PSA order, and I know I'm gonna find out my grade 3 weeks later if I don't do this now, and I do this for my next upcoming order. So I looked at it. It looked clean enough to me. There wasn't really anything wrong with it. I sent it in this order as the last card in the stack because I didn't want to reorganize. I just put the Anthony Richardson Purple Ice at the end of the stack, and it ended up PSA 10ing, which is kind of cool. So that was a purchase at $346, and recent sales are 768, 650, 900, 850. That 768 and 650 are honestly kind of low, but yeah, that's going to be a few $100 gain on that PSA order, or just on that card.
That's sick. But have you been hearing about that his autos might not be authentic in Prizm? Is that real?
I know he has two different designs in his sticker auto. I don't know if you can refer to manuscripting as the design, but I think there's one with like a small A and it's more spread out, and one that's a more traditional signature. And the one with that's a smaller, more cut signature is the one that's suspected to be fraudulent. I don't know too much on the case because I honestly have not, I don't think I own an Anthony Richardson autograph. But it's now something that I am trying to watch and ensure when buying and perusing Anthony Richardson autograph cards. So it's in the back of my mind, but I am not an expert. I don't have a PhD in this topic.
Well, we'll see if there's any developments. I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't think we talked about that yet on the podcast.
We had not, to my knowledge. Yeah, I mean, relatively. I mean, I guess that Babe Ruth pretty much stole the spotlight for any potential deal of the week. But I hadn't gone to a card show this week, and yeah, that's that. I've been doing a lot of deals lately, so cut me some slack on this one.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to come a little bit more prepared, Max. I know you make way more deals than you talk about.
I mean, I sell stuff. I've been selling a lot on Twitter, but I don't really have. Okay, you wanna know my deal of the week? I bought someone's 6 duds worth of sapphire boxes for $20 because they got absolute junk, and I sold a Kyle Freeland red for $20, and Schwarber, Alonso, Riley league leaders out of 50 for $11, and I sold a Brady Singer gold sapphire for $5. Sorry, excuse me, $6. So yeah, that's my deal of the week, and I have a bunch of sapphire base, and that's barely going to cover me.
Well, that sucks.
That's
That's
no, I mean it's good. I mean it was $20 for everything, so it's not that bad.
yeah.
But yeah, that's my fun deal of the week, I suppose.
It's a
I've
great
been,
time
I've
to
been
be
hyper focusing a lot on grading and a lot on individual buying and selling. And I've had a lot of good grades pop. Like I have a LeBron James Spectra that I bought at the Dallas Card Show from Mr. Roth Cards. And I cracked that and I got a PSA 10, and that's pretty cool, but that's unsold. So not a play of the week yet. And last Huntsville, Alabama show in December, I bought a 2020 Downtown Stephen Curry. It was sealed and I gemmed that, but not sales yet. So no deals of the week. And also I didn't buy them this week either. So I like how we're going with some ambiguous term that isn't necessarily eBay buys of the week. But yeah, I don't know. I'm live, laugh, loving life and cards.
love speech only.
Love
Max,
speaking.
your final thought for me. I just have one question. Just want to hear your answer, and then we'll peace out to everyone for the week. Will you be sending more or less cards to SGC now that they're owned by the same parent company as PSA?
The same. I've sent 2 cards to SGC in the I gave it to them at the Dallas Card Show, and they were ready. I think my package arrived right before the Birmingham Card Show, so it was like a month turnaround for their lowest tier. And I sent them my Mike Trout Dynasty 1/1 auto and my Patrick Mahomes SGC Silver auto. Yeah, I've like kind of I've done well in SGC in the past where it's like there are cards that are like tech again, not these 2 cards, but in the past, like I had an Acuna Black update, US 250. Yeah, I know ball and I can say card numbers off the top of my head. But I had a black US 250 Acuna, and it was a PSA 6. I went on Golden like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. PSA 6, I won it for like $800. And I'm like, this looks great. There's whiting, there's normal stuff. This is not a 6. So I cracked it. I tried selling it raw, but I was ethical in that I was hugely saying, "Hey, there's a lot of white corners. There's this indent on the card." In my opinion, and this was genuine, I think the card. I didn't disclose the previous grade, because I didn't think that was necessarily relevant, but I was pretty active in saying that this was like in beat up condition, or rather even just near mint. I think I was describing it as like near mint, as like I think this is like an 8, and that was just based on PSA kind of slamming it a little bit too hard, and like the card, if it were raw, and had I not known PSA's grading history, I would say it's probably an 8. So, I put my money where my mouth is. No one, so there was some interest, but like not, people didn't really want to buy it raw, and I respect that. Sent it. You pay for the grade, not the card. That's the game that we play right now. And in vintage and in collecting, you want to pay for the card and not the grade, or you can be a little flexer and pay for the grade too, because life's fucking fun that way. And I sent it to SGC. They gave it an 8, and I think I moved the card for like $2,500. Bad thing was this was before his MVP season.
Yeah, it would have been nice to hang on to that one a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I wonder what the recent sales of that are.
Yeah. Oh, or rather, did he make a good run in 2022? No, this was last year. Yeah. So wow, I guess this was last off season. Time doesn't fly and time flies sometimes. Yeah, this was before 2023 because he had the mediocre 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, this was directly before his MVP season. So that kind of stung. But hey, everyone wins. I made my money. I'm sure the person who owns it has made or will make their money. I put my money where my mouth was on condition. And the point being that SGC and PSA do have different grading standards. It takes a lot of acquisition in knowledge and taste and getting a feel for cards and knowing, even just reading the tea leaves of gossip of what people have experimented with. Like some people say, oh, back end dents, SGC doesn't really care about. That's why you see a lot of 2020 Formula One cards that were produced in Italy in SGC holders, because PSA will slam it with something in the 6 to 8 range, while SGC doesn't pay much attention to it, and they'll give them SGC 9s. And that's a big difference maker. So it's all about getting a feel. If the Darren Rovell rumor is true, that they aren't going to be merging and consolidating into one brand, I think that's beneficial. But yeah, I've heard people yapping about antitrust issues, and continue to go yap to someone else because these ears will not be hearing it.
Well, as long as those people go after fanatics before they go after collectors, I'm gonna be all right. Is PWCC owned by collectors too? Did we already talk about
They're
this?
owned by Fanatics.
PWCC is owned by fanatics. Damn. All right.
And Golden is owned by collectors.
Damn. Well, the more you know. Well, Max, thank you. Any parting words for the people this week?
If you have the means to go to a card show, go. Whether that's from a money-making standpoint, if you're able to spend the money to go to a card show and you're at the point where you're able to profit at every single card show, then life restrictions take into consideration, assuming you are able to balance it with your wife and kids, or if you're solo like me, go to every single card show possible and make as much money as possible. If you are a collector and you don't really care about money and you have a card show in your area that you're like, oh, I don't know if I should go. I was reading on Twitter, some account was saying, oh, I'm going to my first card show. Should I bring my PSA cards? I don't know if I'm selling them or not. Should I bring them to trade? And it's like, bring them. Because really, no matter what, like, and I can't speak for everyone, but I can at least speak for myself. Like, I'm just here to talk cards. Like, yes, I do this for, right as of now, my occupation, I guess, which feels weird to say. But like, you don't have to buy cards from my showcase, like, if you don't want to. I'm here to banter. I'm here to talk. I want to hear what people are collecting. I want to hear what people are buying. And there's very few people that like loathe that. So, and collecting inherently is a very like isolating hobby. And that's kind of, if you're listening to Refractor Rants, then you've likely been exposed to me or Tommy's media in some capacity. So in a way, there's that connection. But even if you haven't and you don't have a big circle or big friends, you get to, or collector friends, you get to know people in your area. You get to know a sense of what people are collecting. You get a sense of where other people that are deeply invested in your niche, either as a profession or not, are at in their collecting journey. And it's fun. Have fun. Go to, again, as long as life permits, If you're going to make money, then stop being a pussy and go and make your fucking money because you have no excuse not to go. And I'm saying that harshly for the young hustlers out there that don't grind hard enough. I will eat you fucking alive. But to our collectors, um, enjoy, have fun. I want you to have fun. I love talking cards. I love cards more than I know sports. And if you're in the middle, that's okay too. But if you're going, thesis being, if you have a card show that you're able to go to travel wise allowing, and if you're making money, then your travel wising is a lot more liberal than if you're just traveling to collect. So I am putting a harder standard on you. But enjoy cards, enjoy card show, and enjoy the people so you can bounce and banter and have fun ideas and have fun conversations with, because that's all it is at the end of the day.
Well, Max, I'm going to change your nickname from the beginning to Sports Card Yapper.
You asked for my final thoughts, Tommy.
Well, that's it.
Don't those ears won't be yapping about the SGC antitrust rumors because that's Fugazi, or some
Well,
might even say Fugazi.
more on that next week, Max. We'll see everybody next week for episode 3.
Episode 3.